With smartphones often topping wish lists, many teens will soon unwrap their first device. While these tools can offer opportunity of connection and learning, they also come with challenges. Parents can guide teens towards a healthy relationship with their smartphones by taking a proactive approach. Teens and adults can discuss clear guidelines for screen time and talk regularly about their online experiences to build trust and communication. Meta Youth Safety Policy Manager encourages parents to talk with their kids about their social media use to enjoy the benefits while avoiding the pitfalls.
What I always like is called like meme education from parents or from teens to adults is asking your teen, like, what are you looking at? What are you enjoying? Or could you explain this meme to me? Like starting the conversation in kind of a lightweight way in which you can come at it from a place of understanding